Okay. Go.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I'm a student of Miss Moose and a good friend. I cook and I fish and I ride horses and we're going to pretend that this is in the future tense, but in the past tense, I built a table. And so we're going to run through what that looks like for my process of building that table today.
This is Gunner, just in case you see his ears.
He's a wolf bear pig.
Okay, so Alexis is my friend from PSU, Portland State, and we are here in her home in Ojai, California, in the wilderness. We don't have the Planks here. Also, her last name is Plank.
Also, my last name is Plank.
So Colin. Okay, so she's got a notebook. She's going to run us through it, and then we're going to add the images later, like in editing.
We know how to do that.
We know how to do that.
It's iMovie. Learn a book. Okay, so what I have is I have two 12-foot planks. They are what is called live edge. So that means that when they cut down this tree, it was from someone's yard actually in Lake Oswego. And fun fact.
Yeah.
But I got them out in Enterprise, so like 5 hours east of you guys. And they cut down the tree and then they just milled it right down the center into these sheets. Yeah, you go that way, I'll go this way. Perpendicular, parallel. And so they still have the edges from the side of the tree. That's why they call it live edge, like the live side of it. They didn't make it a perfect straight line. So in some places it is 30 inches wide. In some places it's like 26 inches wide. And so that is one of the factors that ended up having to be.
Okay, and you have two.
And I have two.
And they're each 30 inches?
Plus or minus.
Sure. And then they're 12 feet long.
12 feet long, exactly.
Okay.
I wonder, does that show up backwards for you guys? That says what I've got. I wonder if that flips.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks backwards in the camera.
Maybe we can flip it?
Which is a mirror.
Yeah, we're not sure. We'll fix it. If not, don't worry about
Next page. What I want to build a long table, so I'll take both planks. Yeah, thanks. Come there. So I'll take both planks, and I want to carve all of the, say hey, all of the plates and all of the plates and serving dishes directly into the wood so that everything is getting plated directly on the table. We'll talk about sanitizing that later. It's good, don't worry. Just think about like your cutting board. And
so it's a flat board and you build the bowl into the board.
Exactly. So everything's getting carved right in. So the food and everything will get plated directly onto the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh my God. And then everyone can sit around and eat.
Okay, next.
Next page. Thank you, PowerPoint mistress.
Oh, this is the one. So what do you know, Alexis?
I know that on average, when you are accounting for people sitting down and eating next to each other, they need 18 to 24 inches of space.
How do you know that?
I know that because that is the industry standard. So like if you go to a restaurant, you have most likely 24 inches of space at the table. If you go to your Aunt Margaret's for Thanksgiving and you didn't RSVP, you might get like 14 inches, but then no one, like you're just touching. Go sit on the couch. Go sit at the kids' table.
Okay.
It's better there.
So is it possible if someone, like this person wants 30 inches at your table?
Tough noogies. Everything's carved directly in there, so maybe you can sit next to someone who doesn't want as much elbow room, and also don't put your phone on the table because that's just polite.
I don't know. I think COVID has really changed the way we use technology.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that people will not use their phones if we have real class again.
Yeah. So for the purposes of this, we're pretending that we're just alone on an island and we have a calculator and that a shark is going to eat us if we don't do it right.
This is what Ojai looks like.
This is what Ojai looks like. And then this is the shark. Say hi, baby shark.
Can we go?
We can go.
Okay, you have a calculator.
I have a calculator.
On a phone.
On a phone.
With a cracked
But there's
screen.
no service and a cracked screen. We'll show you later.
Okay, this one is wordy.
This is very wordy.
So I'll do this, and if it's backwards, then we'll fix it later.
If it's backwards, then
This is our second time doing this.
it'll be like the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
So for the sake of just trying to get everything.
Do you want to look at it?
Sure. I can look at it. Oh, we're gonna just start out converting everything to the same dimensions because it's 30 inches wide and 24 feet long, and we know that everyone wants 18 to 24 inches. We're going to turn everything just into inches so that we're working with the same thing and then we don't accidentally mess up our math and then carve the wrong space for people.
Yeah. And so when you do it, do you do it in one long table or do you do it in like...
I did it both ways because when you are doing any sort of woodworking or sewing or anything where once you cut, you can't go back, there's a saying called measure twice, cut once. So sometimes I feel like my brain does its own conversion charts and those are wrong. And so I did it both for the 24 feet total length and the 12 feet length just to make sure that I was getting the same number before I started carving into things. So for the purposes of this, we're imagining the entirety of the 24 feet. So I converted 24 board feet into inches, so just 24 times 12, and that is 288 inches.
That's true.
Boom shakalaka. Just something to think about for later, in parentheses. There are two sides to these boards. We're going to get to that. We're just going to imagine the length right now is what we're working out. So now we have our board length in inches, 288. Now we are going to divide that by the amount of space that each person needs for their elbows, not their phone, their elbows and their forks. And we're going to use the maximum number, 24 inches, just to see...
just to be comfy.
Just to be comfy. And we're going to see if we come up with like, a number that has a decimal. What's that called?
A decimal?
Well, like if it was like 14.5, that's not a whole person.
It's a rational number?
Is that what that is? Cool.
You can
If we
write
come
it
up-
as a fraction or a decimal that terminates
There we go.
or repeats.
Perfect. Or repeats. And
Like 0.333333. You can write that as a
Exactly.
fraction.
if it was a third.
Yeah.
If it was 2/3, it's 0.6666666.
Yeah, and that's also rational.
Okay.
Irrational is like pi that goes on forever and it doesn't repeat in the decimal. So it doesn't end and it doesn't repeat.
Okay. How much do you know of pi? I only know 3.14. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
3, 1, 4, 1, 5.
If you're not learning
It's
pi
like
during
9,
COVID, what are you
5,
doing?
6, or something, I don't know. Not important.
So-
I hate to say it.
So we are dividing, right now what we're trying to get is how many people can sit at this table. So why that's important, what we're just talking about with irrational, rational numbers, is that if it comes out to 14.5 people, there's no such thing as 14.5 people unless you're talking about my Uncle Charlie. Just kidding, I don't have an Uncle Charlie. And so then we would drop that down to 14. But wouldn't you know it, we're really, really lucky. And 288 inches divided by the max number of space that we want, 24 inches, comes out to a perfect 12 people. So we don't have to drop down.
Multiply by 2.
So now we're going to multiply by 2 because both sides. So we have 24 people can sit at this table. Boom, we mathed it. Now we're going to figure out...
Oh god.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little gaggy. Now we're going to figure out... I wish you guys could have just seen me stressing about this in real time. Okay, now we're going to figure out how to space our spots.
Okay.
Each people get 24 inches. The average plate is 10 inches, and that's what we're going to carve in. What were you
So
going
the
to ask?
diameter is 10 inches?
The diameter of the plate is 10
Okay.
inches. So the purple is indicating our 24 inches per
Oh,
person.
Color coordination.
Wouldn't you know it?
I didn't even tell her to do that.
The blue, teal,
Yeah.
is indicating our plate size, and the pink is indicating what will be the space left over for like your fork, knife, glass, which it's important for you to have space for your fork and knife and glass. Otherwise, it has to sit on your lap, and no one likes that.
So You have 2 ways here.
Yes.
So why are there 2 ways?
There are 2 ways, again, because measure twice, cut once. And so I figured I wanted to make sure that
So like way number 1.
way number 1, I actually did this, in a Looney Tune way. I cut out 24 10-inch pieces of paper and put them down on the table to just make sure that that felt right. Again, because the board is narrow. I modeled, thank you.
Yeah.
The board is narrow in some places, and I wanted to make sure that there was still going to be space for, glasses, candles, the actual food to be put down, because it's all served family style. So I wanted to make sure that I just was really triple checking everything, again, because I only had 2 boards, and
once you start cutting,
can't
go back.
You can't like glue sawdust back in. I've tried.
Okay, so this was, okay, so then what's your second way?
So my second way is, I realized after I did the complicated way first, is that I could find the center of the plate is just 12 inches in, right? Because each person gets 25 or 24 inches.
Oh, because 5 plus 7 is 12.
5 plus 7 is 12, or 24 divided by 2 is 12.
Yeah.
And so the center of the plate would start at 12 inches. So this was kind of giving me a sense of how much space each thing was going to take up, like the plate. And this was giving me a sense of how I was going to start my carving. So because you don't just start your plate at the end, you have to bring your plate in. You need that 7 inches. So I could either measure 7 inches to the end of my 10-inch plate, measure my 10-inch plate, measure 7 inches, that's the end of the place, or I can measure 14, and then 7 inches, and then 10 inches. Or I can measure 12 inches, get my my center of my plate there, and then you could use, I made a compass. I had a pencil with some string that was 5 inches long, because that's the diameter of the plate, and then I would circle around.
So your radius was 5 inches.
My radius was 5 inches, thank you. And
this is like geometry.
So then I measured another 12 inches and did my
so that would be easier.
Radius. So that was easier.
Oh,
exactly.
interesting, because this way seems...
It
seems
easier.
nicer, because
yeah.
it's like you have your plate, and if you have your plate, you know that you need like 7 inches per side.
Exactly. And that's how I did it at first, because that was kind of the more intuitive way. And then when I went to double check, I was like, oh, because I also want to make sure. I just wanted to make sure.
Wow.
I know. I needed you.
Well, I don't know if I would have been much help with that. Oh, that's it.
Oh, is that all I did?
And then we're done.
And then we're done.
And then it worked.
And then it worked.
Long story short. Okay, so then tell us about your plank dinners, I guess.
Okay.
So why do you even need this?
Why do I even need this? What a phenomenal question. So I wanted this because I used to farm, and my family has a ranch, and I would do
something with your hands.
And I would do we would do dinners at the ranch, and I would have friends come down from Portland and cook, and it was really a wonderful way to support local agriculture and showcase what people were doing, bring the community together. But if you've ever done an outdoor event, doing dishes is a drag, because you're either trying to figure out how to get hot water outside, or you're schlepping stuff back inside. And sometimes we would do dinners for like 100 people, and it's just a boatload of dishes. And so then I started doing dinners family style, so you had less serving plates. And then eventually I was talking to a friend, and I was like, I wonder if I could just get rid of the plates altogether and less schlep. And so it's a word.
We'll define it.
Life's a schlep.
We'll define it.
Get ready. You know, you carry books around. You're all schleppers. So your backpacks are too heavy. Save yourselves. Get a rolly backpack.
Yeah, that's true.
You make fun of those ladies at Costco, but they've got it going on.
You really do.
And so, started calling around and found some planks. And
how much did you pay for the planks?
I paid $100
for each.
Yep.
Dang.
Oh, I know. Oh my God, this is a tale. I called a woodworker to see if he could do it for me, and he said that he had an 8-foot table, and with labor he would do it for $2,000. And I said, eek. And he said, well, you can try someone else for maybe they have a cheaper plank, and that one was going to be, it was $100 a board foot. So for an 8-foot table, it was going to be an $800 piece of wood. Granted, it was like redwood or something. Something fancy. And then I called this other gentleman who had a mill, and he said, come by and look at all my boards. And I did, and he offered me these boards. There were 4 of them actually, but 2 of them were too skinny. And he said, I can't help you with it, I'm too busy with work, but you can use my shop. And so he shared all of his tools with me, and he would come in every now and then if I had any questions and just kind of let me go crazy in
and
the
you
shop.
like hand carved the
I hand planed, and then so that the planer is what gets it completely flat, because they were all kinds of wonky. And then I used a circular grinder to grind out the holes.
You didn't hand gouge it?
I didn't hand gouge it. Although it would have been very hardcore.
Yeah.
It took me about 2 weeks to build these. That would have taken me actual months.
Oh.
And I scheduled a dinner on them before I'd actually started carving into them. And so that would have been really funny.
Yeah.
So it kept me going.
They could have carved their own plates.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you have the party or the plank dinner, you set it up in one long table, and I imagine that they're sort of like organically crissy-crossy. Like you're not just like sat.
You're sitting across from people, and so that was a big part of the question.
Is it like 1-to-1, or is it a little bit off?
It's 1-to-1 most of the time. At one point on both of the tables where it gets narrower, it's only 25 inches wide, and so no, it's 24 inches wide at its narrowest. And if you remember, each plate is 10 inches. So 10 inches across from 10 inches, that's 20 inches. And then subtracted from 24 inches wide, that leaves us 4 inches of room. And you don't want your plate right on the very edge, or else you would have stuff spilling on your lap. So I gave them 2 inches and 2 inches, so now that's 24 inches total, and so the plates would be touching. So those are staggered. But I had some friends come and sit down. We did a lot of modeling. So I had friends come and sit down to see how it felt to be staggered from each other, and we found that actually didn't feel that natural to be staggered from each other. Like when you sit down, it felt like you were either working really hard to look side to side, or you were kind of staring into nothing rather than feeling connected. And so it's really intimate. It's it's a very intimate experience. You might get kicked under the table, but it somehow works. And everyone, it's 24 turns out is a really wonderful number of people, where people both there will be people that are brand new to you that you haven't ever met before, but it feels small enough that you can kind of chat with everybody. And there's usually, like people come early and hang out. There's a fire, drinks or snacks or whatever, and people can get to know each other. But it feels like a nice, expansive group that still can connect.
And then what is the mission of the plank dinner?
What a great question. The mission is something I'm still kind of trying to fine-tune in writing, but at its core, it's trying to connect, bring community together. And so that starts for me with people who are growing food. So for the most part, I'm trying to have these dinners at farms, but that's not always easy, because a lot of times farms are dusty and shut up, not dusty. Yes, dusty. They're further out, and so I want it to be something that's accessible for people who can't, drive 45 minutes. And a lot of urban farms already
6 hours.
Yeah, and like a lot of urban farms, they already have, or 6 hours. They already have the attention. They're already doing their own dinners. So I want it to be something that can showcase a wider variety of small farms and support the people who are working really hard to grow food, but then also make it approachable, whether that's through transportation or financially, for community to come together and be able to share in that experience. I want people to be able to meet each other from their neighborhood, and see what other kind of goods I can support. And I also want to use it to showcase different people's talents. So I always work with a local chef if it's traveling around, local farms, and then when possible, some kind of artist from the area. So one night a woman came and she sang. It was really beautiful. I wasn't sure how it was going to go because she sings opera, but it ended up being really, really, really beautiful and kind of fit the scene well. And then for the last one, it was at a local, a woman's trying to start an art gallery for local artists, and it's in her backyard. And so yeah, there were a couple artists who had put up installations, and so people got to come and see their art and eat food. And then and the very last one was at a farm, and the farmer got to sit down and eat dinner with everybody, which he normally doesn't do. Mm-hmm. And so that was really wonderful.
Cool. I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you ready?
Yes.
So we met at Portland State.
We did.
Do you wish
oh god
you wouldn't have gone to college?
Oh my god, I'm so glad you asked me this question.
Right,
Start the video over.
Because in theory, like, you're doing something that is not related to English, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, I studied English and writing.
English and writing. And you are a writer.
And I am a writer.
That's true. Mm-hmm. But, like,
I'm not doing anything that directly, I'm not teaching, I'm not working at a magazine, yeah. I'm not writing a novel. Well, I am, but that's
the Great American Novel.
On the next.
So do you wish
episode.
that you, like, if you could go back and, like, undo those years at university, would you? And, like,
no.
Everything would be the same, maybe. Like, you would still do your plank thing. Like, you would still have found that path.
God, that's a really complicated question. I feel very complicated about my scholastic journey. One, it took it took me 9 years of in and out. Yeah. And so I went to, if you guys ever want to talk to me about where to go to school, where not to go to school, if not to go to school, student loans.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's my question is, like, if you were a young person who thought maybe you wanted to do something like this, some sort of, like, community farming, outreach, food situation, like, would you recommend them, like, go through the traditional pathway? Or are there ways for people to enter this?
Something that I would recommend is community college. It is approachable, it is affordable, it offers so I went to a private Catholic college, which that was my first school. I went there for a year and a half. I'm going to say a big number. $30,000 worth of debt is not worth what happened there. Then I taught ski lessons. That was worth it. Then I went to Cabrillo. It is a community college in Santa Cruz, and that is where I learned to love school. The teachers were wonderful. They cared about what they taught. I was taking photography and oceanography, math as, like, a fun elective during summer school. My teacher was very hot. Can I say that?
It's too late.
It helped is all I'm saying.
Oh my god.
Jamie. He has YouTube, damn it.
Yeah, we'll tag him.
Yeah.
Tag him in the comments.
Got to take art classes, I got to take science classes, and they were affordable, and I got to work at the same time, and I got to live in an area that was exciting. And for me, that is where I learned what it meant to be responsible to myself, to show up. And I am the kind of person who really does well with outside factors helping me to create timeline and structure. I am not great at timeline and structure on my own. Stop smiling.
I'm not.
I'm really not. And so that place was really, really helpful for me to learn about accountability and in a low impact way. My first school, lot of money, not very attentive and like really getting what I could have gotten from it. Huge mistake. Huge. Second school, great. Third school, by that time I was in my late 20s, and that was PSU, and I would go to school, I would go to work, I would go to school, I would go to work. And by that time, I had gone back to my family's ranch to make like $12 an hour, working 13 hours a day, like pulling black bears or something miserable. And so by the time I went back to school the third time, I didn't want to make $13 an hour burning blackberries in a ditch. And I was still programmed to believe that if I went to school, I would make more money. That's not true. What it does teach you is how to show up on time, how to, on your own, not because your mom is making you do it, how to complete something, we'll talk about that later, and how to be someone who can, kind of self-direct within a controlled environment. I don't know that I would have gone the full 4-year college route if everything could be the same. I really enjoyed the semi-structure of community college. I really have enjoyed working at various different jobs. I have been a waitress, I have been a hostess, I have been a chef, I have been a fly fishing guide, I've taught horseback riding lessons, I've taught swim lessons, I've been a lifeguard, what else have I done?
You burned blackberries.
I burned blackberries. I one year decided I was going to be a farmer and grew corn and had 200 chickens and went to farmer's market. Another year I worked for a farmer and we made tortillas and popsicles and went to farmer's market. I worked for a field marketing company where I got to travel around the country for some really fun companies and go to music festivals and rodeos and all kinds of like hunting, fishing expos and just really bizarre things. I feel like getting diverse work is really educational, and trying things. And ultimately, the best thing that I have found for anything that I wanted to do was getting a mentor. And if you want to learn how to do something, find a mentor.
So you don't have... So I guess my question is, like, if there's a young person watching this, and they are like...
You are. Are you still here?
Yeah, we do have to go. It's been a little bit.
Ooh.
I know, sorry. But like, if you're a young person watching this and you like the idea of working with food or community or farming or anything in that umbrella, it's a large umbrella. Like, would you ultimately, yes or no, recommend they go a 4-year college route?
No.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. That's all.
I would recommend working at a farm, or I would recommend working in a kitchen. And there are some really incredible farm schools out there, but I don't even know if I recommend that. Like, find a farm. They're on Instagram, they're on the internet, ask around, go to farmers markets, and find one that inspires you. And you can start volunteering for free is cheaper than university. So just think about it that way.
That is true.
And then you can try it out and see if you actually like it, if you actually connect with it. And then if there's some course that you see that could pertain to it, because education is changing so much, like, I can't remember who it is, but one of the Ivy League schools is putting all of their courses online for free right now. And so you can take a lot of the, like, food justice classes, permaculture classes, all of those. Like, the internet is there. Use the internet. You're watching this on the internet.
No, they've downloaded it.
If you want to do anything in that, don't go to 4-year school. I don't even recommend, if you want to cook, don't go to cooking school.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of like a sham.
Yeah, it's kind of a sham.
I hate to say it. And if your parents did that and they're successful, great on them. I know a lot of stories where it's, I know, we're fine, where it's like a ton of debt.
Yep.
And like when I worked at Starbucks, that was like really common to have people from the chef school in Portland.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called, who worked there and just like drowning in debt.
And
I was like, oh, that sucks. And then
and learning like some really obsolete, like, sure, they teach you how to, mount like a perfect, French whatever sauce, But the reality is you can learn that in a day working in a kitchen with someone.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of, it's a lot of obsolete techniques and work that people don't really care about anymore. Like people.
Almost like traditional school.
Exactly. Ooh.
Ooh. No.
So if you want to go in debt for obsolete skills,
we know the place. Okay, cool. Thank you, Alexis, for
so
coming
welcome.
to my show.
Don't go to school out of state and do out of state tuition. Okay. Yeah.
Unless you get a scholarship.
Unless you get a scholarship.
Then I recommend getting far away.
Not loans, scholarship.
Yeah, like if you want to go to Iowa and play volleyball on a volleyball scholarship, yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thanks
Go to
for
the
having
fairs and eat a deep fried Twinkie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Funnel cake. Thanks.
We'll put your like tag
Oh, sure, yeah.
for like questions or if they need a mentor.
Yeah.
Bye.